Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of Forechecking TV. I'm your host Doug Galacki. Alongside me is my co-host Scotty Porterfield. And Scotty, we're back again. We need to find a way to stop doing this pattern where we disappear for a year. But
Yeah, we don't need to go off the grid for 6 months to a year, however long it's been. But I think it's time to get back into a regular swing of things, and this is the perfect time to do it. Obviously, off season's right around the corner, and we could potentially be seeing some big moves on the front. So
yeah, yeah, absolutely. There's already been so much stuff that's gone on already, but real quickly, want to touch on the Stanley Cup Final. Um, very very dominant run by the Panthers. Obviously, it almost got spoiled in the end, but that is what that is. The biggest thing that the Panthers did since they traded for Kachuk is they completely reworked how you're supposed to build your team in today's NHL. You and I both know this happens every once like 5 to 7 years. It goes back and forth between the physical style and the speed and skill. And what I think is happening here is Florida's the perfect blend of both. You know, they
yeah,
they have guys that, you know, aren't afraid to get their hands dirty, but are also skilled and can kill you in many different ways.
yeah. I mean, it's a unique skill set that guys have now. I mean, you think about it. Whenever the Penguins were on their run back in the day, everyone was like, okay, now the game's built around speed. We got to have fast guys on our team. And now here we are in 2024, and now Florida is basically saying, okay, no, now you need guys who can also lay the body, aren't afraid to throw the weight around a little bit. And that's been huge for the game. I personally like seeing the physicality side of the game, and I feel like in recent years it was not there, and now it's starting to finally make its way back. And I think it's great to when you combine the speed, skill, and also have a little bit of the physical play now too. Hockey's in a good place right now, so I like where this is going.
Yeah. You know me. I was against it for quite a while, but um the biggest thing that turned me to the tide is when the Penguins got Michael Bunting.
Mm,
You see how he plays. He's still going to give you 18 to 20 goals, but like still, he's going to wear people down, and then like you get to thinking and you think back to some of those like Penguins teams in 16 and 17. They had a lot of guys like that. It's just none of us really took it into account because of how fast and skilled everybody was. You got to think like Scott Wilson was like that, Kuhnhackl, Cullen, Bonino, Eric Fair, Hornquist, Kunitz, all those guys were always hard around along the boards and making it hard to win puck battles and always being in front of the net. And, that's something that the Penguins also kind of have in Brian Rust, although that isn't fully his game. Um, you know, they have that with him. And, that's a big thing that I think the Penguins need to get back to if they do want to start like contending again and trying to make the most out of these last couple of years is go get more physical guys. Like that's the biggest thing is like, and I heard somebody say this week on a podcast and it resonated with me. If you go and play the Penguins, yeah, you might lose a little bit. It's going to be a good, fast paced game, but like you're not going to really come out of it feeling like you got your ass kicked.
right.
If you play the Panthers for 60 minutes, you're going
You're
to
gonna
be
know.
you're going to be worn down and you're going to feel it,
You're gonna.
you know.
Yep, absolutely.
So
I
I
think that's been one of my biggest gripes with the Penguins. Is like whenever Hornquist was traded away,
right.
they never filled that void.
No,
They
they
hadn't
don't.
filled it, and then they bring Bunting with that trade last year, and now it's like, okay, now you got that guy who's going to work at the front of the net, who's going to wear down players, who's going to make you work for everything you got. They have that with him now. I mean, as much as it sucked losing Jake Gensel, I'm not complaining too much because Michael Bunting was a great addition, and I can't wait to see him with a full year with Crosby and or Malkin next year.
Yeah. It's it's what they needed. It was a major change of pace for them compared to what we've seen. Um, and I think that this has probably put Kyle Dubas on notice and made him realize, okay, like we need to be targeting a different type of player for both the top six and the bottom six, because like you need guys that are physical in your bottom six. Like, and when I say physical, I don't mean like you need Pat Maroon or Ryan Reeves. You need guys that can play that run and gun style and still make it very difficult for you to come out of that puck battle with the puck, as well as, you know, I'm sure you notice this. The guys that are more physical are always the ones that are like sickos on the PK because
Definitely. Yeah.
they're wired different. They crave chaos, and they need more of that because like, you see it last year, like they weren't getting that with really anybody in their bottom six. The
No.
only one that was like really like a decent PKer was Lars Eller. And that's just because
Yeah.
like he's so good at it and has been doing it his entire career. Um, but that's something that I really want to watch for the Penguins to do this weekend going into the draft and into July 1st on Monday, seeing what they can do. They got a they got about $12 million in cap space right now to work with. But from my understanding and things that I've read, that all is likely going to be subject to change. So stay tuned for that and we'll see how that goes. Pivoting forward though, trades. So many trades,
A lot of
like specifically for goaltenders, which is unlikely, but like then like I thought about it and I was like, okay, like it makes sense that they're making a lot of trades for goalies because as of right now, the best goalie on the market for free agency is probably Ilya Samsonov, which let's be
the
real,
dice roll.
we're not building our goaltending. Nobody's building their goaltending picture around Ilya Samsonov in 2024. No shot.
Not absolutely not.
Um, Probably the biggest one that happened this week was Linus Olmark finally waived his no movement clause, got sent out to the Senators. They received back Eunice Corpusalo with 25% retention. That brings him down to a $3 million cap hit. Mark Kostelik and a 2024 first round pick that actually turned out to be Boston's first to begin with.
Hmm.
Changed hands quite a bit. What happened was that was the first they traded to Detroit for Tyler Bertuzzi. Then it got traded to Ottawa for Alex DeBrincat, and now it is back in Boston's hands. I don't think Boston did bad. I think the biggest thing that was very difficult for them was the fact that Olmark isn't didn't go with an extension in place. Had he gone with an extension in place, there would have been a much larger return, in my opinion. But at the same time, I don't think they did bad. Um, Mark Kostelik is like your trademark bottom six guy for the like your trademark bottom six Boston guy. He might play, he might
Yeah.
not. Um, them getting a first is good. You never know what they'll be able to do. They might be able to get somebody that can help them this year, similar to what they did this past year with drafting that Matt Poitras.
Yeah.
Like that could help them. I also think Corpusalo is going to rebound. I really do because I think Boston has a good goalie coach, and I think he will play off of Swayman very, very well. Um, Next one, probably the most off the wall one for one trade we've seen in about a decade here. Um, Darcy Kemper for Pierre-Luc Dubois.
When you texted me that trade happened, I literally had to do a double take. I
I
couldn't
know.
believe that
Yeah, I
a
know.
straight up one for one
I know.
goalie for a forward.
I know.
Never seen that.
Never happens, you know.
No.
But as the story goes, Dubois' no move clause was supposed to kick in on July 1st, and they wanted to get him out. They wanted to clear that money because their thought process is they don't really need him now because of how good Quentin Byfield is.
Yeah, Q took a
Which,
huge jump this year in
yeah,
terms of playing, and I mean, just being honest, PLD isn't there half the time anyway, like
no,
mentally at least.
no,
I mean,
like
the guy is just guy's
75%,
just dogging it.
the guy literally does not want to play hockey.
No,
And it makes
he really does.
it's probably going to be even worse now because the no move clause is kicked in. He controls his own destiny and he got his money. So, but the Kings
Kudos to him,
obviously,
I guess.
yeah, kudos to him. I mean, getting that bag. The Kings obviously shore up their goaltending picture. Um, for the longest time, they've just been running around with Phoenix Copley, you know. Not saying that Darcy Kemper's probably the best option at this point in the game, but who knows? He could probably rebound in a new environment. Um, but it's also just a bizarre trade to make whenever you had the guy once to begin with, you know. But then again, maybe it's Rob Blake knows him, you know. Um, but
He's been through a lot since then. Made a lot of. I mean, he's won a Stanley Cup since he left LA. Game's
made
obviously improved.
made it crap.
So exactly. So I
Yeah,
mean, I think it's and for LA, who's now establishing themselves as, hey, we want to go back to where we were 10 years ago. We want to be that team again.
yeah.
It's not a bad guy to have in between the pipes. So
No,
it's a good move
no.
for them.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, and then real quick, just going to touch on it since we're talking about Washington technically. Andrew Mangiapane for a second round pick. Um, Interesting piece of business. You know, this is a guy that I wanted in Pittsburgh. Very
Mhm.
much kind of reminds me of when they got Anthony Mantha.
Yeah.
You know, same type of
Yep. Going
player,
to be that depth piece. Yeah,
same type of
absolutely.
player, physical, probably going to play on their second line. I imagine he won't touch the third line because as of right now, the third line is going to be filled with quite literally the entire like Hershey Bears because like they actually had like legitimate prospects down there when they won the back-to-back Calder Cups. Um,
Yeah.
and I mean, I think this is a good ad for them, you know. If he does good, great, and if not, like they could retain 50% on him and dump him at the trade deadline for somebody that wants him, you know. Like
Yeah, absolutely.
if it doesn't work out, trade him at the deadline to Nashville or something. Yeah, I don't know. He just
Yeah,
seems
it's
like
very,
a Nashville guy off the top of my head.
yeah. I mean,
Uh,
it's just it could easily work out that way with Mangiapane. He just they're hoping that they're going to find that gel, obviously, and he can help share out that top six. But worst comes to worst, um, that can always flip him. So I think that it's a good addition for Washington, and they should ride him out for as long as they can.
yeah, you know. Um, and then last goal we trade to get into, let me pull this up quick, is Jacob
Markstrom.
Markstrom getting traded to the Devils for Kevin Ball and a top 10 protected first in 2025. Um, just to add in, there was 31.3% traded or retained on Markstrom. It eats his contract down to $4.1 million. I
Hmm.
think this is pretty damn good for the Devils because they have him and Jake Allen under contract for just a touch over 6 million. I think that that's a great goalie room for them to have with where they're at this stage. Um, and honestly, them losing Kevin Ball, although he did play well for them last year in a very small, sheltered role, that doesn't really hurt them at all because they have a lot of great defensive prospects. You got to keep in mind Simone Nemec really didn't even play last year up there. They still have Seamus Casey. They still have a couple other guys. And they have all these guys to the point that there's still rumors going around today that they may package John Marino in 10th overall to Carolina for Nietzsche's, you know?
Yeah,
So,
I mean, New Jersey's at a point right now where I mean, last year they took a huge step backwards. I
right.
mean, obviously they had a couple injuries, and that doesn't help. But I mean, there was no excuse. There's really no excuse to miss the playoffs last year, especially all the progress you had made in the years leading up to it. To take the step backwards that they did was catastrophic for them. So they sure up. They got a good goalie room, like you said. Now it's just about staying healthy, and hopefully they're looking now to be one of the top teams in the Metro this year.
And biggest thing for them that's underrated is I think they got the right coach. I think Sheldon Keefe's like the perfect coach for that specific group because you got to think he learned so much in Toronto coaching all of those guys that are kind of in that same age demographic as like Heischer, Hughes, Dawson Mercer, guys like that, that it's going to
Mhm.
help him right this ship, you know? And honestly, I think that he also believes that this is a great second chance for him due to the fact of it's kind of shocking he was able to get an NHL job again that fast with how
Yeah.
much heat was around that entire situation.
So it definitely, I mean, I was shocked that he bounced back as quickly as he did. I figured maybe it would take another year or two, especially considering just all the negative stuff that was coming out of Toronto, like out of Toronto about him and everything. Just I was really surprised that he was able to find a job that quickly. But hey, kudos to him. And like you said, that's that age demographic that he's used to coaching with. And maybe it may not have worked in Toronto, but maybe things will turn around in New Jersey.
Yeah, and let's be real. I think a lot of those guys in New Jersey are going to be a lot more receptive to him than certain players were in Toronto.
There's a very good chance I'd say so. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at
I have
that
to agree with that.
so the Marner Mafia doesn't come after me. Um, Jake Wallman getting cap dumped at San Jose. This was bizarre because that's a player that quite literally damn near half the league would have wanted had Steve Eisman just been like, "Hey, we're shopping Jake Wallman. What do you want to do?" And he would have been able to get a legitimate return for him. But instead, he attaches a second round pick to Jake Wallman and trades him to San Jose for future considerations. They had cap space to begin with, dude, and they cleared more. They cleared another 3.4. Something's going on there. That's very major, like it's very major, like Brian Windhorst, what's going on in Utah vibes.
Well, I think Stevie's looking at it saying we should have made it's kind of like New Jersey. He's looking at it like we should have made the playoffs last year.
And they should
It's
have.
our time. They've and yeah, they absolutely should. They should not have been going back and forth with Pittsburgh battling for the second wild card spot. That's a team that is young and upcoming. They've waited long enough. It's time for them to say, hey, you know what? It is time to make the playoffs. It's time to go back to winning cups again. Because I know the fans in Detroit are sick of waiting. It's been a long time coming for them. And yeah, so hopefully Stevie, I'm sure he's got a lot planned for this offseason, and it should be interesting to see what he pulls off.
Yeah. I mean, I think top of the list from what I've seen is goalie.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't
definitely.
know. I don't know why we're trying to make John Gibson happen in 2024, but hey, have at it, pal.
Yeah,
Especially with no retention. Like, that's crazy.
yeah. You want to get a
I,
full contract?
they'd be, the truth is, they'd be better off trading for Jari.
In all honesty, yeah.
They would be. I mean, it's just, I'm terrified to trade with Detroit because I don't know if I want to take Billy Huso back. unless you retain 50% on Billy Huso and he comes in and it's like the perfect like 1A for Ned. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not too thrilled about I don't like that idea to be honest with you.
Either do I.
I'm not too sure.
Either do
I
I.
don't think I like that
The truth is
much.
the answer is you dump him off and you sign Cam Talbot.
Yeah.
That's the only solution.
Mm.
Um, Ilya Mikheyev, 2024. We got a freaking bidding war going on for Ilya Mikheyev. What, like, what are we doing?
Who'd have thunk it?
I'm going through that and like they're like, oh, another team on Ilya Mikheyev's no trade list has emerged. And I'm like thinking to myself, like I'm just sitting, I'm like literally sitting up in bed. Girlfriend is sound asleep. I'm sitting up in bed thinking to myself, like, there's no way Pittsburgh's on a no trade list, right? Like, I hope to God that Pittsburgh isn't on a no trade list because like that would just be horrible. Turns out it was San Jose, which makes sense. I mean, they want guys similar to how Chicago wants guys to fill that lineup for Macklin Celebrity, but good on Vancouver, good on Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvine for getting that done. Tidy piece of business allows them to keep Dakota Joshua and Tyler Myers. Um,
Teddy Bluger's sticking around too now.
what?
Teddy Bluger's sticking around too now. He's got him back as well.
Dude, that contract's actually crazy for what he did for them last year. That's nuts. He could have hit open market and gotten probably like 3 years, 3.5 million AAV to be a three
Yeah,
seed.
easily.
Yeah, that's not.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um,
I think you can just tell that he's bought into what Vancouver's trying to do. I think that's a good situation for him. And
I yeah, I also was always of the thinking that he was never a true fourth line center, and they needed to just let him like, for a lack of a better term, they needed to let him cook, but they didn't.
yeah,
Um, Sharks moving up in the draft. This is very interesting. Um, they traded um the 14th overall pick from Pittsburgh that got traded to them for Eric Carlson, a second round pick from the Devils that I'm assuming that they got for Timo Meyer. They traded those picks to Buffalo to move up to 11th overall. And I've already kind of seen through it. I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to draft Macklin Celebrini and Cole Eiserman and keep them together. I would not be shocked if next year we see a BU line of Cole Eiserman, Macklin Celebrini, and Will Smith.
I mean that'd be that's a great move for them. Obviously,
Yeah.
just I think Mike Greer has been getting a lot of criticism lately, and I'm sure his seats might maybe feeling a little bit hot right now. So he's probably looking at it like, hey, how can I get us where we need to be? Obviously, I won't go as far as saying they're going to make playoffs next year, but you at least want to set a good foundation. And if you can get that BU line set up like you want, then yeah, I think that's a great start for him.
Yeah. And I think, they might be a team that might get in this conversation for Rutger McGroarty. That would be another great add to the group. And, obviously that makes one of those teams like that makes them a really interesting team moving forward, having all of those young forwards. Obviously the defense needs work, but like as we all know, building is a process. That's probably something they'll handle next year and moving forward.
Mhm.
Um, Now big thing to move into is I just got a thing that says that this is going to be done in 10 minutes, but um we'll figure out how that goes. Um Ryan Suter Cam Atkinson and Jeff Skinner all have been bought out. Um, so those are going to be guys that are going to be available to sign anywhere in the next few days. Um, so there's that. Um, and then um, NHL draft tonight. Obviously, things are going to be pretty stationary.
Mm,
Number one overall pick is a guy that's borderline generational. Like, there's going to be no interesting stuff that goes on. The
yeah,
only thing that's interesting is Anaheim's at 3, and Anaheim can always go off the board. Other
that's
than
true.
that, really nothing else.
Everyone's pretty much what they're going to be. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, Penguins rumors. Riley Smith trade is pretty much imminent at this point. I'm expecting him to get moved by Monday. Jari's been getting shopped. I'm expecting him to get moved by Monday. Um, and really, you know, they just really need to just take picks and move on. I would understand if you're able to get an interesting player of some sort for him, but who knows? And the other thing that I want to pose to you, since a lot of weird contracts are getting moved around, is do we think he can get out of Ryan Graves?
He's going to have a hell of a time trying to do it if he
Yeah.
does go that route. I mean,
I mean, if you have to attach a second round pick to Jake Wallman, yeah, I know.
that's going to be tough. I mean, and it wasn't like Graves lit the world on fire last year either. He was struggling. So, I mean, it's going to be a tough sell for him to try and be able to move that contract. It's going to be a rough one. And I don't know if Kyle can pull it off, but it's going to be quite the test for him.
Yeah. Um, and then let's put our GM hats on real quick. What would you do? Like, knowing the situation, knowing where they're at, say they have 22, $23 million in cap space. What would you do?
I really think you need to look into shoring up your forward core right now. I think that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing. I think that you need at least one more piece in your top six. Obviously, if Smith's on his way out, you probably need at least one more piece to try and see what you can do there, and then fill out the rest with depth. Because I mean, we're losing. There is a lot of points on the team that need to be addressed here.
Yeah.
But I'd say forward is the biggest one right now. I think goaltending is going to play itself out. Obviously, Nedeljkovic is going to be the guy going forward, but you still have. I mean, you still have a lot of guys here that you can fill in with. Now I'm looking at it. Maybe defense should be another one that they should have to address here coming up soon as well. I mean, you do have Carlson, Letang, Pedersen, and I think Ludwig is also in here. POJ is going to have his POJ is a pending RFA right now, so we'll see what he gets, obviously. But
He'll get
maybe the
signed.
bottom six can tighten it up. Yeah.
I what I think that they should do with that specifically is they need to sign a left shot to bump POJ down. Let the third pair be
Mhm.
POJ and Jack St. Ivany.
Yeah.
Um, and guys that are on my radar for that is Matt Grizzlick, because I think Grizzlick could play with Letang in like a weird, like Mike Matheson way. Um, and then maybe take a 1 year flyer on Oliver Shillington. I think that that would be good. Like, that's very Dubas like, almost very similar to how like all last summer we kept hearing about Ethan Bear and then he couldn't fit Ethan Bear into the cap. Um, obviously top six, you need a winger for Sid. I think the perfect winger for Sid is probably Jake DeBrusk. It's not going to break the bank for you. You're going to have to pay like probably like somewhere between 4.75 and 5.5. And then, you know, in my opinion, you get somebody that can challenge Ricard Raquel to like bump him down if he isn't traded,
Absolutely.
you know.
Yeah. I don't
Um,
know about them moving Raquel. I don't know if that's
I don't know
really in
if
the
it's in the
cards, but
cards. Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
don't know
He
if it's
definitely
in the
needs a
cards
push.
either.
It's, I mean,
You know,
he's got to get
and like,
something. Feels like it feels like Ricard Raquel, like he only really finds success with Sid. I feel like him and Gino don't really work as
yeah,
well for whatever reason. But that being said, you can't separate Sid and Rust.
no, and the other major key part of it is they need an actual third line center. I don't know how you do it. I mean, I personally would want them to trade for Ross Colton from Colorado. I think
Mhm.
that, you do O'Connor, Colton, and then like it's probably going to be Pustin. But if it was me, I would sign another winger. Obviously, like I would get somebody like Warren Fogle, physical guy, put up 20 goals in Edmonton this past year. I think that's somebody you take a flyer on, and then you build your fourth line out as Puustinen, Eller, and Nolachari. Puustinen has the two-way play and the defensive zone impacts to be able to do that, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And it would give them a scoring touch that they need, you know. And the biggest thing for me is I feel like taking Nolachari out of the center spot will open him up more for potential offensive contribution rather than him needing to fully focus on a 200-foot game. Um,
Right.
and on top of it, it gives you another, if you go get an actual third line center and you bump Eller down, that gives you an actual PK guy. That gives you an actual PK ace. So you could do like that player and Rust, and then Eller and Achari with somebody else roaming in, you
I
know?
think at this point, Eller just wants to have some stability as far as line mates are concerned. He doesn't want to play with 20 different guys like he did this past season.
Yeah. And
What a
that's why
nightmare
I
that
just
was.
want to like put him on the fourth line so that he knows what he's getting every night. Put
Yeah,
him on the fourth line with the potential of not playing with Jansen Harkins.
good
You know,
riddance.
um, yeah, that guy needs to be gone. It's honestly good we didn't record last year because I would have been screaming into a microphone a lot about Jansen Harkins.
Oh, you would have never heard the end of me saying about how your goalie outscored you. Like
Yeah, yeah.
that's
Um,
embarrassing.
real quick, free agency preview. Carolina's looking to get a contract done with Jake Gensel. If not, watch for the Kings, Red Wings, and potentially the Stars. Sam Reinhart is going to get extended in Florida, as is Carter Verhaeghe, which is going to open up for them to trade Aaron Ekblad. And, you know, again, I already touched on it. What does Detroit have planned? You know, they might be in the Steven Stamkos running, but we'll see. Um, anything else you want to touch on real quick? We got like 45 seconds.
Just it's really snuck up on me how quickly free agency is approaching. I just realized now like, oh, it's going to be here on Monday. Like it really
Yeah,
snuck up on me this year. But
yeah, it's
I'm
crazy.
excited. I'm ready for it. So
Awesome.
let's get rolling.
All right, guys. Thank you for listening to this episode of Before Checking TV. Look for us on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at For Checking TV. Thank you and goodbye.